Yo, what's up, everybody? Okay, let me get the chat pulled up so that way I can see what anyone's saying. For those people coming in, so we shall see. Just wait a moment. Oh man, Fridays! You gotta love Fridays. As you're coming in, just say hi. And take a few moments before we just start talking about the discussion, which is the title regarding Huawei and their decision to invest 3 billion into their platform and are no longer, for sure, no longer going back to using Google services. So we'll just kind of talk about that here in a sec. Just kind of wait for it. Ugh, craziness. But while I'm waiting for people to come in, if you come in here also, go ahead and tell me about your Friday. How is Friday cooking up for you? I'm pretty late to the game. I wanted to stream hours ago, but had a couple of things to do and then had to pick up my kiddos from school. So delayed the stream until now. And by the way, yo, what's up, Sneak? The first person in here. Well, we'll see if anyone else joins in. If not, I'm just going to talk about what I think of Huawei no longer going to Google services or not going back to it. Um, you know how I do. How's your Friday? How's your Friday been, man, so far? And it shows 3 people in here. So, yeah. Besides Sneed, if you're in here, say hello. Just wait a little bit longer. Trying to find that article where I read a little bit about it. I know that Huawei was talking about basically investing 3 billion into it. So I'm assuming Hongmeng OS is going to be their thing that they're going to be going with going forward. And just see, yo, Mr. AM, what's up, man? Appreciate you coming in. Yeah, we'll get started here in a little bit. I'm just waiting to see like how many people come in so that we can talk about Hongmeng OS or Harmony OS or Arc OS, whichever Huawei is going to name it. But yeah, I was reading it this morning. I was kind of surprised to see that Huawei is basically standing firm of not returning to using Google services and what that spells. And then, of course, some of the quick hype that different sites immediately talk about. Can't wait for Harmony OS. Kind of curious to know why. If you want to explain just real quick what captivates you about Harmony OS. Because I know there's one thing about Harmony OS that I actually truly like, and that's something that Huawei's been testing and showing its test results for that, and that's how excruciatingly fast Harmony OS can be. The I believe the architecture of how it's going to perform, like basically the one thing that Android suffers on is that its reliance on Linux, and Hongmeng or Harmony is completely different, almost similar to what Project Fuchsia is. So we'll kind of get into that. Give me competition on all levels. Yeah, that's what I was going to get into in a little bit. Um, I don't look at Harmony OS as an Android killer. I think a lot of platforms that are like literally calling it an Android killer or Harmony OS is in Huawei is going to completely obliterate Google and Android's pretty much got their heads in the cloud. Um, so, I don't know. Let's just roll with it right now, and then as people come in, I can always reiterate. But so today, read a little bit of news as I do every morning. I hit Google News and I hit through all the things that's going on there. And interesting article talks about that Huawei basically makes it confirmed they will not go back to using Google services at all. So future Huawei devices that are running Android will not have the Play Store and all those things, right? It'll have Huawei's own gallery of apps. And going forward, Huawei's pushing Harmony. What's up, two phones? So they're going to be pushing Harmony OS or Hongmeng OS, whatever they're going to call this thing. I believe it's going to be called Hongmeng in China and Harmony in the UK and in the US. Not too sure about the name Arc OS, but hey, it is what it is. Oscar, what's up? What's going on? So here's the thing. So a lot of major platforms are one of the things that they really kind of focus on here is they focus and they have this thing of where Huawei and Harmony OS is going to obliterate Google and completely just erase Android. I beg to differ on that. I don't believe Android's going to go anywhere. What I do think that's going to happen, and Sneed actually said this earlier before I started talking about it, while we were waiting for people to join in, is that it's one of the things he stated is that's going to create competition. So his statement was, give me competition on all levels, user experience, app selections, platform security, etc. Yeah, we definitely need something to refresh all levels when it comes to this right now. Like, I think part of the reason that some will say that mobile technology today has become stale is because there's only two platforms you can really use. You're either using Android or you're using iOS. There's not really anything else out there. I mean, we had Windows, and let me tell people right now, when you guys want to laugh at me, I actually liked Windows. I really did. The only thing for me that was a fail on Windows, which was not technically really Windows' fault, was the lack of app support. So having so many third-party apps or third-party developed apps for Windows phones is really what killed it. Okay, so like you didn't have an official Snapchat or an official Instagram. You had all these third-party users, which was like it was hard to trust signing into these platforms, trusting these third-party sources on Windows with your logins. So that ultimately, to me, is what killed Windows. Other than that, the functionality of Windows and everything was pretty clean and gave a little bit of like a blend of both, right? Like you had live tiles that acted like widgets, kind of combining Android and iOS in a way. Yeah, exactly. When you liked Windows, I did too. I really thought that that Windows would have lasted a lot longer than expected. Let me silence the iPhone. Let me do the same here on my Pixel. It's kind of like so I don't get interrupted. But yeah, since Windows went down, and of course, BlackBerry conformed to using Android OS, we haven't had another platform to really kind of go with and kind of like give us a palate cleanse. And that's where I feel like that Harmony OS, that's what it's going to do, okay? Whether I become a fan of it or not, Harmony OS is going to be a good palate cleanser. We need something different than the everyday Android and iOS. Like the biggest complaints with iOS is that it's the same. It's always the same. Nothing changes with it. Customizations, yada, yada, yada. It's always the same. The thing with Android is that Android tries to be different in so many different ways. Yes, Reese's got this in Vegas. I'm going back to Vegas in March too for a little vacation trip, just personal time. But yeah, I got this in Vegas, so yeah, Reese's. I love Reese's. Reese's Pieces is my thing more than peanut butter cups. That's just me. But yeah, with the Android side of things, you have various OEMs try to construct Android into the way of their likeness, but it's still Android at the end of the day, right? It's still based on Linux. It's still based on those things. Life is good, bro. No complaints. Oh, cool. All right, yeah. Keep the conversations flowing in the chat, guys. I appreciate that. But yeah, we don't have anything different to use or to try or to say, oh my gosh, this is so much better, or just to change our perspective on smartphones. We don't have that anymore. And that's where I feel like it's kind of gone dull. So with Huawei deciding to say, hey, I'm going to take on Android for what they've done to us, because obviously there is some bad blood between Huawei and Google. And they're going to, already Huawei basically passed Apple as in like second place for like, devices sold all across the globe. Huawei pretty much took that spot. So this, a matter before time before they take the number one lead. And Huawei is everywhere. And don't get me wrong. There's a lot of political things that goes on with Huawei. And while this would be something to kind of be alarmed about, the only reason why, and I'm not downplaying if there's actual proof that there's spyware on Huawei devices, or the Chinese are spying on US through smartphones. And I'm gonna tell you guys why. I'm not downplaying it. I'm not saying that it's not anything to be concerned about. But then again, I am saying that it is something that people really shouldn't be concerned about, because I mean, for one, the Chinese are not trying to spy on you. If they are trying to spy on anybody, it's politicians and government officials. But there's really not much today to spy on anybody about, right? Like, we share our lives as if the world really cares about what we do. I'm guilty of it. I'll fry a freaking scrambled egg and snap a photo and put it on Instagram and be like, my breakfast this morning, thinking, oh my gosh, I made scrambled eggs and it's so delicious and it's so good. I'm sure someone's gonna get hungry. Not really realizing that, I just shared a photo of eggs. Like, I mean, people share everything. People go live and live stream that are not, content creators or anything like that. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with doing that, but it's like, we share everything in our life. So what the hell is there really to spy on if we're sharing everything? I mean, for Pete's sakes, there's, leaked videos and photos. I mean, that's how far privacy has gone downhill. There's no proof, no evidence of espionage on hardware or software level. At least not yet. Gotta call a spade a spade. Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, with just, how this world works. If I was some well-known person all across the United States, right? And I pump out that statement that Huawei has spyware on their devices, right? You know how many Americans and how many people across the country are going to believe that, regardless of what anyone who actually knows these things can say to dispute that. They're going to think what they're going to think. I mean, because it's been known that hackers can basically access your camera on your laptop. Whether it's happening or not happening, people are literally taping their camera with duct tape on their laptop, and they only pull that thing off when they're actually going to use a video call. And now they're actually building laptops that has a shutter to the camera on the laptop, where you close the shutter when you're not going to use the camera, open it when you're going to use it, right? So I mean, whether there's proof or no proof, whether there's reason to or not. But let me just say this much that I will say, even though I don't have physical evidence to tell people, is that every country spies on each other, right? US spies on other countries spy on us. So this whole thing of like tarnishing a tech company, yeah, I mean, I get it. There are some things that they have pointed out about Huawei that is a little bit sketchy, being the fact that the CEO of the company is actually in ties directly with the Chinese government. But that's for their own people to worry about, right? Because China lives by a different set of rules than what we here in America live by. Like, we could consider ourselves to have more freedoms than the Chinese do, which is why the Chinese are protesting their own government. Is because there's a lot of things that they are not allowed to do or say, right? Like, could you imagine living in a country that if you spoke bad about your government, you could be black bagged and just disappeared? I mean, there's billions of Chinese, so they're not worried about one person disappearing. But even Mark Zuckerberg covers his camera on his laptop. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that, like, that is probably one of the number one things that not only Huawei has to face, but other manufacturers such as Xiaomi has to face that scrutiny. Lenovo faces that scrutiny. Why are nasty Chinese communists eating live bats and creating the... Really, Dan? Barbecue cats and dogs alive to eat. Well, let me just say this, okay? Well, put that user in timeout. But I've lived in the Philippines, okay? And as crazy as it is, and while some people may think it's weird, I have actually tried that. So yeah, if you're trolling here for fun or whatever, just stop. But anyways, so yeah, the reason I brought all that up is because that's some of the things that Huawei faces, right? Xiaomi faces it, Lenovo faces it, Blue faces it, right? Because the Chinese are manufacturing phones that are delivering some pretty good performances and good features at like half the price of what you would pay for a Galaxy S, any of those things, right? I'll drop it on the lames. Yeah, that right there is a fact. I mean, have you seen like the Poco phones get so much coverage? You see, various different Huawei devices get coverage. I mean, the Huawei Senza was probably one of my favorite budget devices from Huawei, and that thing was actually pretty solid for a budget device. But The sister company Honor had pumped out some very good phones. I had the Honor 8. I love that phone. That phone was amazing for what it can do. The Chinese companies are building off some very serious devices. So for Huawei to, for it being banned, what they banned it back in May, for them to face all that, and then for all this, government espionage, they're spying, which I don't care if the Chinese spy on me, because what are they going to see? A 37-year-old guy who makes tech videos and plays Pokemon Go and loves, ramen noodles. What are they going to get out of that? That's not going to help them win any country over. I'm not worried about those kind of things. So when Huawei's like, okay, you know what? We're not going to rely on Google services anymore. I was like, yes, that's a good thing. Because I was starting to think like, okay, they're going to go in a direction that will bring something else to the table that will eventually cause other companies such as Google with Android and Apple with iOS to get reinvigorated to start bringing more stuff. You love ramen noodle soup? Oh man, I grew up on that. I grew up on ramen noodles, and there's like so many different things you can make with it besides the ramen burger. You guys should try fried ramen. I'll tell you guys a little bit how to make fried ramen. You guys should try it. It's really good. If you guys follow my directions on making it, it's real simple to make. Takes about like 25-30 minutes to make. But anyhow, so since Huawei is now going to go in a direction where they're going to just rely on themselves, invest in themselves. I mean, they said $3 billion they're going to invest in to basically grow, since their market share has already grown, to basically produce us this operating system that's a lot of people are going to be intrigued by. And I will tell you guys, regardless of how much I like Android and regardless of how much I'm liking iOS, when Harmony OS hits the shelf, I am going to go out and buy a device to use it, but not just mid-range or anything like that. Like if I have to spend $800 on a flagship to try it out to get see its full potential, I will. Maybe I'll buy a budget one too, just to see how it does with a lower spec device. But I will definitely want to try out Harmony OS because I want something refreshing and new. That's the main point behind it, is something new that will kind of light a fire under the butts of the other two to make them do something, right? Because I'm tired of seeing the same old things, right? And then talking about the same old things is becoming repetitive and redundant. Having to say the same things over and over again. Heck yeah, me too, bro. Two Phones grew up on that too. That's right, man. Ramen is the best, especially when you're broke. You learn to make things with it. But yeah. So seeing it, I don't see how people can say that's such a negative thing. So that means that app developers will have to make apps for them too. Yes, but Huawei had already talked about it, that they're going to try to make it seamlessly easy for app developers to kind of port over their apps. Basically, I guess, like, if you want to say, I'm trying to put it into layman's terms, but I guess you could say like the structure of Harmony OS is not too different from Android. So it would make it easier for them to just port their apps over, is what they're claiming. I would totally think that, companies like, because I know they already have some sort of deal in place with Facebook and WhatsApp, but other things like Instagram, Snapchat, and all those other ones that people use, they'll be working with them. But I would think a company like Snap Inc., a company like, TikTok and all those ones would definitely develop for Harmony OS, even if they had to totally rebuild an app just specifically for that platform, because they should know how this thing works. When something new hits the market and it's from a name that everybody knows, that more than likely there's going to be a massive following to it. Dividing the market up into three components means that you'll have iOS, Android, and Harmony. I see positives out of that. I like Android better without Google. My Honor 8X Max has no Google, and it's actually refreshing. I mean, yeah, there you have it. That's like, I don't want to call it and say that's an insight look to what Harmony OS is, but it kind of is. I mean, and Honor is Huawei's sister company. And I've been a big fan of Honor devices ever since I got my very first Honor phone, which was the Honor 8. And since then, going to Best Buy, because I can't afford every phone that comes down in stores, but going to Best Buy and just picking up like the Honor 6X, the Honor 7X, all those different ones, the Honor 8 Lite, and just playing around with them and taking pictures and videos of the store and overloading their storage with all kinds of videos. Honor's been pretty solid. What was it, EMUI? is pretty snappy. So yeah. Excuse me for drinking this lemonade, homemade lemonade. So not, powder and stuff like that. Cut up some lemons, a little bit of sugar, tiny little bit of honey, not a lot, but that way I don't overload sugar. Because honey like sweetens drinks a lot better than sugar does. TSB, hello, hey, what's going on, man? Yeah, so we're just basically talking about Harmony OS. If you guys want to leave your feedback on that right now, what your guys' thoughts are, I'm open to that. Are there any concerns that you guys can think of this happening? And do you guys really think? Because I don't know why those sites say it that way. It's like either they have like the inside scoop or something about basically, is Harmony really going to be the Android killer? Is it really going to kill Android? I don't think so. Android has been around for so long, and it's got its devout followers, the same as Apple has its devout followers who just won't use anything else but Android. So I don't see Android going anywhere. But do you guys think it will? Do you guys think that Huawei could actually kill Android and Google? And then, of course, what Huawei is saying about how fast Harmony is if you compare it to Android. Which do you think would be a better competition to Harmony OS? Do you think Android would be, or would you guys be okay if Google completely flipped and launched what Project Fuchsia is? Because the one thing I know about Project Fuchsia and how I know that it is going to be a lot faster in computer processing compared to Android is that it is not Linux based. All right, see here. Smash that like button, everyone. Oh, okay, yeah. Thanks, Oscar. Appreciate that. Would you recommend buying a Huawei device? I would. Because I mean, there's a lot of hype with that whole thing that we were talking about it earlier in the stream. That people were like, oh yeah, Huawei has spyware on it. Chinese phones have spyware on it. But you know what? Like, even Korean-made phones have spyware on it. Literally, like if anyone can hack your phone and get into it, it's not just a Chinese thing. And the Chinese can spy on me. They'll just learn my ramen, recipes and make it for themselves. What if Samsung would want to make a phone with Harmony OS? That would actually be good. Samsung, pretty good at building hardware using Harmony OS. That's what I'm saying, like the possibilities and how competition will grow a lot better for us, okay? We got to look at it as a standpoint for us, the consumers. Never mind Google, Apple, and all of them. They don't pay me to like them that much. So for me, I would want to see more. So yes, if Samsung was like, hey, let's build a phone and put Harmony OS on it, and they have some sort of deal with Huawei, that would be pretty awesome, right? Imagine this, that because like my Pixel, right? Obviously, I can unlock the bootloader. I can put a recovery on it. But what if there's a way for me to port Harmony OS to my Pixel 3? And what if it made the experience using my Pixel 3 100 times better? You also got to think about, basement development, right? We have a lot of, devs out there in the world of XDA who do these types of things. So just imagine what possibilities there would be. Even like if like Harmony OS can like breathe like better life back into my Nexus 5X. I mean, these are things that I think about when I think of these things. The BlackBerry OS was great. It's almost extinct. Yeah, BlackBerry OS was actually pretty good. I don't think it'll kill it. However, maybe could be a third OS option. Yes, TSB, that's exactly what I'm thinking it's just going to be. It's just going to be another option slicing the pie 3 ways instead of halves. Google will stay tops with app support. I mean, yeah, until Harmony like really gives them a run for their money. All right, man, I got to go. All right, 2 phones. Thanks for coming by, bro. Appreciate it. I mean, hey, they used to make Galaxies with Windows. Yes, exactly. There's a lot of cross businesses that can be done with this type of thing, right? Obviously, it's going to force Android to step its game up, and because you really think about it, and this is my perspective when it comes to Google and Pixel, and I was mentioning this in the other day's video. But while saying that Google needs to take their Pixels more serious, to be a contender against iPhones, because like right now, right, like iPhones is a well-known phone, right, and it's always considered at a top class, never considered ever at the bottom, but always at a top class. Maybe they do some dumb decisions, but nothing that knocks them to the bottom of the list, right? They're always up there. And the pixels are not there, even though Google is touting them to be up there with the iPhone. They're kind of underneath. It was like you got Samsung and all these different OEMs just kind of doing things that makes their phones a better fit and option for people to choose over the Pixel devices, right? And that is blamed on Google's laziness. Their laziness to like really take the time and develop things, really take the time and work into things. Like, why is it so hard for a company to just push their company as hard as it can go? Like, whatever happened to companies saying, okay, we got a deadline to meet, but we got to make this work by that deadline. It's like now it's okay to make this thing work. And if we're at our deadline, well, we'll just push the deadline back a little bit more, or we'll release this thing half baked and then fix it as we go along, which is the problem with Pixel phones, right? That's the problem that the Pixel 4 is facing. A lot of people are giving second and third opinion reviews on YouTube, and they're saying the same thing. Pixel 4 is great. Battery sucks. This sucks, but the rest of it is great, right? And that's because it got better over time with each update release, each security patch, software bug patch release, it got a little bit better. That just to me that just means laziness. Like, you can't push your crew to make it function and run right out the gate and hit your deadline and hit your quota. Because it's not impossible. Google has, some of the best, engineers and geeks and nerds and software developers out there. We know this, right? Not just from the movie The Internship, but we know this if you go to the Googleplex and visit the campus yourself. They got a lot of good, bright, young, talented minds there. So why aren't they being pushed to full capacity to reach, an end level to produce something great? Everything is always half baked with the pixels. This is probably why I'm probably never gonna, be able to be accepted into Team Pixel, because I keep like shining the light on all their flaws instead of exalting them for all the things that they say they do good. I mean, they do good with AI. Don't get me wrong, right? They got AI pretty much going for them, right? I mean, you look at things like that Google Assistant can do, and it's just like amazing. And then they talk about how much effort they put into it, just like the Pixel Buds. How at what was it? I think it was made by Google. They showed how far they've gotten with the Pixel Buds that should be released this year, and how they packed all this technology into such tiny earbuds that go into your ear. But if you could do something like that, if you could make your AI machine so realistic to like a human that it can fool people on a phone call when it calls to make your hair appointment for you, why can't you be able to produce a solid operating system on a solid hardware and have that met by your deadline quota and have it released? Why can't we for once get a Pixel phone and smile when we open the dang box and boot the phone on for the first time, instead of opening the box and living in that fear of what bug issue am I going to face in the next 5 days? Like, that's all that consumers are asking for. Real consumers don't care what you and I, like us geeks, have to say about this phone and that phone and that phone and that phone. They don't care. They just want to buy the dang thing. They want to open the box. They want to turn it on, and they want it to work. They don't want things crashing. They don't want battery drain so quickly. They don't want apps and software aspects running rogue and just completely defeating the whole purpose of that phone, which is to provide a good user experience. That's it. You know? So with Harmony OS coming in, with Huawei actually, saying, hey, we're going to box triple threat rules. Why not? If it'll make Google actually produce something better, if it'll make Apple get off their safety net and actually innovate and do something instead of just playing it safe with just incremental design changes every 4 generations, I'm all for it. I'm all game for it. Bring us this. Bring us something new, something refreshing. Hell, I'm all for it. I'm game for it. Because we need this. This is why that people will say that mobile technology got dull. Google is busy putting their hand in everything. I remember a couple of years ago, a Google worker came to my high school and they showed apps they were working on. What kind of things were they working on? Because I know like Google has its hands into just about everything, right? Like they have services that deal with classrooms, right? They got schools nowadays that they're giving Chromebooks to for the students to do their work. They Google and autonomous driving. Google getting her hands in traveling and vehicles and things like that. Obviously, computing, microcomputing, artificial intelligence. I mean, Google is still working on a contact lens that is supposed to help, I guess, those that are blind. I don't know how that's going, but they're involved in medical technology, right? It wouldn't surprise me if they had nanite bots that are supposed to go and seek out cancer cells and destroy them in your body just by injecting these things into your bloodstream and then siphoning them out of it. It wouldn't put it past me. When we see these things in movies, we're like, that's possible, but it could kill you, but it's possible. But what if it is possible? Google's got their hands into a lot of things, which is why Google's under investigation right now. They are looking at the company, and if they are found to be in a monopoly state, they will be broken up. Google will have no choice but to break up into like various different not departments, but just like standalone companies. I see that happening because Google likes to buy up everything. Like, I don't know if you guys remember the app called Songza. Like, this was like 6-7 years ago. There was an app called Songza, and Google absorbed them and put that into Google Play Music. Songza, the way that music app worked was you found playlists based on your mood. So they had moods like gym, relaxation, parks and recreations, hype, dance, jazz. They had all kinds of things. It was always based on emotions, right? And they kind of fed that into Google Play Music. So when you go to Google Play Music and you look, you'll kind of see like there's a section that's for moods, and they have like different moods, like, what are you doing type thing, and they have playlists built around that. Yeah, Google's involved into everything, Apple a little bit differently. I know Apple is still trying to bring their satellite project off the ground to provide service to iPhones without the need of a carrier. Obviously means that Apple might enter the game as a carrier because Apple tends to do what Google does, right? Like Google has Google Fi, which used to be called Project Fi, and they piggyback as an MVNO off Sprint, T-Mobile, and US Cellular, right? So Apple's going to one-up them. They're going to probably eventually in the future, if it does work out for them, start their own phone service company, but they're not going to need a network to build out because they're going to be reliant on satellite to provide data connectivity, voice and text to iPhones. But we'll see how that goes. But if that happens, and again, Google's just really weird when it comes to a lot of things. There's things that Google does that I like. There's things that Google does that I think that will benefit mankind. Okay? I won't take that away from Google. But then there are a lot of things that Google does that absolutely just is like doesn't make sense. Like, forgot his Twitter handle name. I follow him on Twitter because he posts all these things about what do you call it? Oh yeah, Jason C. I'm just saying on Twitter. I love his tweets. But he talked about Google and their services, whatnot. And one of the things that is true is like, yes, Google tends to compete with itself and kill itself. I mean, Google Graveyard is just completely full of, apps and services that were like each other that they killed off in favor of another one, right? I mean, if you look at Google Graveyard, some of the most notable kills that Google has under the belt, Allo, Google Plus for consumers, not for businesses, Inbox by Gmail, I'm sure you guys can name some more. So yeah. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much it. I was only gonna have a goal of like a half-hour stream. Unless you guys want to add anything, ask anything. Oh, real quick, since I said I was gonna give you guys a fried ramen recipe. So make fried ramen. So the things you're gonna need, obviously, is fish sauce, soy sauce, oyster sauce. Okay, fish sauce, soy sauce, oyster sauce. Those three sauces you're gonna need. Of course, you're gonna need ramen packets. I would say, to like feed 4 people, it's like 6 packs of the ramen packs, whichever flavor you want. Your protein of choice, whether you're gonna go fish, shrimp, chicken, beef, pork, whichever protein you want to use. You cut that up. You season the meat how you want it seasoned. Kind of like sear it in a pan. Don't cook the meat all the way through, but just sear it in a different pan. And then what you're gonna do is that you're gonna boil the noodles in water until they're soft. When they're soft, strain it with a pasta strainer. and get like either a frying pan or a wok. If you have a wok, that's gonna work perfect. If you don't, use a giant frying pan. Drizzle some oil on it. Get it heated. Set the heat to about like six half to 7. And what you're gonna do is that you're gonna add your seared meat in. You're gonna a couple of splashes of oyster sauce. Add the noodles in. Make sure the noodles are strained of a lot of water because you don't want it popping on you. But you add the ramen in. Start to mix that up. Add some soy sauce. Add chopped green onions. So if you have green onions, chop them up. You can add that in. You can add regular white onions. You will then add like some splashes of soy sauce and a little bit of fish sauce for more saltiness. Soy sauce, just kind of like add a little bit of flavor to it, but then fish sauce kind of like really hypes up that saltiness. And if you want to use the seasoning that comes with the ramen, you can. It's called dashi. Well, it makes the dashi, which is the soup base. You could add that in if you want to for flavoring or whatnot. You can add hot sauce into it if you want to make it spicy. You can use, jalapenos if you want to. Or you could add like ghost chili extract if you really want to kick it up that high. You can, or use habanero sauce, whichever your choice is. But you fry it up for about 10 minutes, till everything's pretty much like fried up and not dried out, but just, like fried rice. And pretty much that's it. It's fried ramen. It's real easy to make. Anyways, guys, okay, so I'm going to dip out right now. Thanks for joining in the broadcast, those who came inside here. So, Mr. AIM, DK Jaime, thanks for coming in. Two Phones. Serrano, thanks for coming in. TSB, thanks for coming in. Coffee, thanks for coming in as well. Appreciate it. Oscar, thanks for stopping by. Sneed, thanks for coming through. You were like the first one in here. And thank you to that troll for posting that little funny statement there. It's kind of funny. But yeah, that's it. For those who watched the replay, thanks for watching the replay. I really appreciate it. You guys drop a like if you guys enjoyed it. Smash the like button if you just found it. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys on Monday. And as always, aloha.